From the WATE.com Digital Center, answering your legal questions. This is Ask Isaacs. Now, here's Lori Tucker and attorney Greg Isaacs.
Hi, everyone. We are glad you're with us today. If only you could see behind the scenes. I feel like this is pretty much behind the scenes doing this live stream. But you walked up not 20 seconds ago. I walked out this way. Here we are on live stream. We're ready to go.
I was a crime wave getting from the office to the station.
Oh, my goodness.
Traffic infractions.
I can only imagine. You didn't make any infractions, did you?
If you're not caught, it's not a crime.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Hey.
It's Hope Grimaces for producing.
Legal incrimination?
Oh, here we go. Our digital producer, Hope, just said, is that legal incrimination? We'll follow that another day. Today we're talking about bad betting. Gambling crisis in the NBA after a head coach, a current player, and a former player were arrested in connection with 2 federal indictments related to illegal gambling on games and rigged poker games, Greg, that had mafia ties. We do have a story. Let's go ahead and show that kind of lays everything out. Then we'll discuss and we'll ask our lawyer.
The FBI director announced more than 30 people have been arrested in connection with these 2 criminal cases. Authorities say this involves current and former NBA players, a head coach, and mafia families.
We are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Casa Nostra.
FBI Director Kash Patel says the arrests span across 11 states in 2 fraud cases linked to years-long illegal gambling operations. Each involves well-known figures from the NBA.
The charges and the arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling.
In the first case, authorities have charged 31 people who they say rigged illegal poker games backed by mafia families. Among them, Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, a Hall of Fame former player for the Detroit Pistons.
These defendants used high-tech cheating technology to steal millions of dollars from victims in underground poker games that were secretly fixed.
In the other case, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and 5 others are accused of participating in a sports betting conspiracy, sharing insider information to help others win and then taking in some of the profits.
When specific players would be sitting out future games, or when they would pull themselves out early for purported injuries or illnesses.
Authorities say these 2 cases are separate, but 3 defendants have been charged in both cases. Now, an attorney for Terry Rozier said his client is, quote, not a gambler, and, quote, looks forward to winning this fight. In Washington, I'm Kristen Escow.
So there is the very
FBI
latest, and Greg, you're here to help us kind of dig a little deeper, get a better understanding of just what's going on. So for your average basketball fan out there, let's explain the first indictment. And this is the biggie. This involves the mafia, and you say it's more of a traditional indictment. The betting one isn't. So what's the difference here?
It is. So 2 indictments, 2 separate parallel trains, but some overlap with Portland Trail Blazers coach, Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups, Rozier, the Miami Heat point guard, and Damon Jones, an ex-NBA player. But this first indictment lays out a factual basis that I think Netflix would have said it was too outlandish to produce a miniseries. And here's what the allegations are, Lori. La Cosa Nostra, the mob, the Gambino family, others, had rigged illegal poker games. And what they would do, and here's how the NBA comes in, they would use these superstar players like Chauncey Billups to lure people into the game. And once they got to the game, these high-stakes poker players didn't realize that the table was rigged. They had card counters, they had computer programs, they had a way where the table could tell what the hands were. And
That's so wild.
It is wild. So, Chauncey Billups on one occasion actually got $50,000. And not only was the games rigged, they would rob people, show up in guns, steal the money.
Now, I want to ask you this. Did Billups actually go to these games or just get people to go, say, hey, you need to go here?
That's unclear. But again, they were the enticement, the bait, so you're gambling, and you're gambling here with a high-profile athlete. So they were the bait that lured these people into this highly sophisticated, technical, illegal gambling scheme run by the mob.
Wow. Okay. So you talked about this one being traditional and the betting indictment isn't. What's the difference there?
Okay. The second one legally is fascinating because what they've done is tried to make a federal case out of insider information. And basically, it's called non-public information. And so what Billups, Rozier, and Jones would do,
Allegedly.
And again, these are just indictments. And let's talk about what an indictment is.
Yeah.
That means the government, Kash Patel, we saw him at the press conference, has went to a grand jury and they have found probable cause. That's like tipping the scales of justice 51 to 49. The indictment is not evidence of any wrongdoing. You hear those lawyers jump up and down. But here's the one that I think is the most defensible, indictment number 2. So you have Rozier, you have Billups, you have Jones conveying non-public information. For example, Jones in a scenario let people know that LeBron James was not going to play. Rozier would tell people, hey, I'm going to take myself out of this game early. Billups on one occasion said, hey, we're putting in the B team. And here's the government's novel theory, because typically in a federal case, you have to have some interstate nexus, go across state lines, federal crime, wire fraud, et cetera. So their theory is that when you gave this non-public information, for example, LeBron is not going to play, you knew, or it was foreseeable, that the bettors would use gambling websites, i.e. the internet, i.e. wire fraud.
There you go.
And by doing that, that information constituted the federal crime.
Okay.
So this is a really unique thing, and I don't know that they've ever done this before. So just, someone saying, now, for example, if you were in a bar and you looked at somebody and you said, hey, I'll tell you, I saw LeBron in practice. He's got the flu. He looks terrible.
Not looking good.
He ain't playing. Did you commit a crime?
Did
Now,
you?
I don't know. But the government's theory is
I
when you were
wouldn't
giving
think
it to people that you knew were going to load up on these internet gambling websites. So very fascinating. And the NBA already looked at this issue, and they said nobody did anything wrong.
Well, and further, the NBA has said Rozier specifically did not violate any NBA rules. Here's the question. Could you explain what the FBI could do to bring a case like this versus, say, a private company?
Well, a private company, I don't think it would be, against the law. But the question is it a crime to let people know that you're not going to play or intentionally take yourself out in order that people can place bets?
Is it? What do you think?
Well, and part of the elements in some of these, it's wire fraud.
Bringing in those other entities.
The gaming sites have the small print. Always beware of the small print. And one thing it says, you cannot utilize non-public information to gain an advantage on the gambling website. So the government's extrapolating the prohibitions and warnings on the gambling websites to say this was a fraudulent bet, blah, blah, and they trace it back to Rozier, they trace it back to Jones. But think about this. This has been going on, if you read these indictments, for years.
This investigation goes back to at least, 2019, maybe before?
Members of, and it's just not the NBA, it's the NFL. And you have some Titans that were involved, Tennessee Titans.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So what happens next? What would be next in the proceedings? We have the indictments. Now where do we go?
Well, you saw, and to me, as we say on Ask Isaacs, courtroom is theater and optics were important. And I was shocked.
Perception is reality.
I was shocked at the way that Chauncey Billups and the other defendants, the big three, we'll call them, Rozier and Jones, appeared as they were arrested and getting into court. I mean, they had on sweats and hoodies. You would have thought that your lawyer would have done a deal where you were going to turn yourself in, and you would have looked a little more presentable.
It was a little surprising.
It was a little surprising. So what happens next is now in federal court. It's very regimented. They're going to go through a discovery process, and that's going to be interesting because everybody's going to want to know what other high-profile big names are involved in this gambling
Are
scheme.
you thinking this could be huge?
I think it's going to be huge. I mean, it's already big. 11
Yeah.
states, over 30 defendants. So it's only going to get bigger as this investigation goes on. Then what's going to be interesting is recent ABA statistics show that 92% of all federal cases plead. Okay, that's a big statistic.
That's huge.
'Cause typically-
92%.
Because typically when the feds charge a case, they come loaded with bear. They've got wiretaps. They've got phones.
They have
they've
all
got
the evidence.
confidential informants. But what they don't have, and you've got to prove in every crime, is your client's mens rea or intent. So you're going to see the discovery phase. And then I think you're going to see people file motions to dismiss the wire fraud case.
Why?
Because if I'm Rozier and I say, I'm going to take myself out of the game, and you take yourself out of the game, have you committed a crime?
I
mean, do
guess
you
it
have a
depends on who
legal-
you tell and where, and if
Do you have a legal
you
duty
post it.
to try your hardest? So I mean, if I'm the lawyer, I'm going to argue there's 27 shades of gray between black and white, and if I want to put my butt on the bench, you know,
I think
so
he
be
needs
it.
to hire you.
well, so that's going to be really
Interesting.
interesting how
Yeah.
it plays out. And I'll tell you who's going to get caught in the crosshairs is, you know, the NBA, whether it was Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan, has always had a gambling problem. I mean, this isn't just oops. These people just decided to gamble, and apparently, you know,
It doesn't come as a huge surprise
their
to many
internal
basketball
investigation,
fans.
surprise, surprise, said, we don't think anybody did anything wrong. So that kind of sends a big message, and you know, it is not unforeseeable that the NBA could have been complicit in kind of sweeping some of this stuff off the court under some tables, because look at the optics that have happened since these arrests. How it's going to unfold before it goes to trial. Now remember, in federal court, there's no cameras in the courtroom.
Right. I'm
So
already thinking who's going to be the sketch artist.
we're going to have a sketch artist. But back to 91% of the cases plead. Who's going to be the cooperating individuals? I mean, think about it. Is it going to be Billups? Is it going to be Rozier? Is it going to be Jones? Is everybody going to man up?
I guess it depends on how the FBI makes its presentation and how prosecutors are going for the information.
And the other interesting thing is, under the federal sentencing guidelines, you start out with a base offense level, which is a numerical number based on a specific crime, and then there's certain enhancements. And when you're talking about wire fraud, let's talk, you know, in indictment number 2, that is value driven, and you can be held responsible for all the money that's attributed to your co-defendants and whatever.
Oh my goodness.
So it's going to be interesting in both of these cases how much money they're going to attribute to this conspiracy, and how that drives up the federal sentencing guideline
well,
exposure.
given these charges, then just, you know, if you could, not, I don't want to say guess, but kind of what could you expect? Say there are no plea deals. Say these folks are found guilty.
I
What
think
kind
you're
of
gonna see
prison time?
some big numbers. I don't want to speculate, but
I know, it's
but
hard to
you're
do that.
talking decades is what
Wow.
I would say. I would guesstimate professionally. I mean, because if the gambling schemes go back to 2019, I mean, that's a lot of money. But
And
the
is
other-
it more people? We've got 30 so far. Could they bring in more, or do these indictments just cover those 3 people?
Well, and you know, we talked about how I think the lawyers are going to attack indictment number 2 by saying, if I'm Mike Rozier and I want to put my butt on a bench, did I commit a crime? Let's talk about indictment number 1. I think in some of the media reports, these poker games were referred to as unauthorized or whatever. I mean, illegal gambling. So let's talk about this. It's like,
Yeah, what is
years
illegal
ago,
gambling?
someone
Let's
called me
explain that for
and
you.
They go, hey, I've got a problem. I need to meet with you right now. And he goes, basically, my bookie says I owe him $10,000 more. I want to sue the bookie. I'm like, I won't mention obviously the name, and
Oh.
I kind of said, we can't sue bookies because
Right.
it's an illegal
It's
gambling
illegal.
enterprise. So you're going to
It'd
have
be
all
like
these,
suing your illegal drug dealer because
Yes.
you got a bad deal.
Yeah, I got bad fentanyl. So, but here's what's interesting: the witnesses for the government are going to be thugs, gamblers, people that are breaking the law, people that are hiding,
Members of
going
the
in back
mafia, would
ways.
they even?
Yeah. So
That would be interesting.
yeah. So that's what's going to be interesting. Who's going to be the credible witness that's going to say, I'm the victim? They cheated at my illegal gambling game. I mean, think about how that
Is
resonates
that really
in a
going to?
courtroom.
Do you think that could really happen? I guess it depends on
And
what
it
they're
depends-
offered.
And it depends on, there's 11 separate states, and they have
Yeah.
separate laws. What the specific law, Tennessee has very restrictive gambling statutes, whether it was an illegal gambling operation. So I guess, I know you can rob somebody that's doing something illegally, but that's going to be kind of the government's challenge in indictment number one. And then the other thing is the discovery is going to be salacious because I don't know that I want to be the lawyer that is wanting to really dig in to the mob and point the finger at the mob as the bad guy and not my client, Billups, Rozier, or Jones. But you're
Well,
gonna-
given the history with federal judges
yeah, it's
who have literally lost their lives in the past, I mean, it is a tricky situation.
it's going to be remarkable. And I'll tell you what you're going to have too. This is it's a shame it's in federal court, not state court, but this is a court TV dream, because can you imagine the attorneys that are going to be there for these high-profile NBA players and the attorneys for the Gambinos, La Cosa Nostra, whatever. So it's going to be a who's who of defense lawyers. And, so if you're the prosecutors, you better
Yeah.
bring your A game.
Yeah, you better.
So-
Now, do you think someone's going to fold? Do you think that's the objective here, to get someone to say, okay, this is everything I know. What kind of deal can you give me?
Well, the way it works is you say, if we go to trial, your sentencing exposure is here. There's certain things that we can do to make the elevator go down. For example, if you enter a plea of guilty, you knock 3 levels off your base offense level. Elevator goes down. If you cooperate, you get what's known as a 5K motion for downward departure for rendering substantial assistance to the government. Elevator goes down again. So, what you do is you're having this dialogue with your client. If we go to trial, you're looking at decades. If you cooperate and testify truthfully, you can be out of here in a few years. So that's when I think, and that's why those statistics are so important, and 92% of the cases resolve themselves. I think you are going to see some people cooperate, but it's going to be hard well, in indictment number one, do you really want to cooperate against the mob?
That's the tricky
tough
situation.
decision.
And then when they look at the evidence, are they going to bring out
Yeah.
that apparatus
Well,
that was used?
and like
because that would be really interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, people will ask, if I cooperate, am I going to be safe? Am I going to do this? And then,
Yeah.
you always say, it's not like the mafia. It's not like this. You're protected and separated from people. Well, this one, you can't have that conversation because it's not like the mafia. It's the mafia.
I mean, could witness protection be part of
I
this?
don't know. TV
Is it
glamorizes
that big?
That's
I
that's a
know.
little. That's not as easy and not as glamorous as one would think, and it's not utilized as nearly as often as people would think. But it will be interesting. I think it's going to be hard for people to plead in these cases because if you're Billups, Rozier, you're Jones.
And if they disappear, we
Well,
wonder
you're-
where they're going to be. Witness protection,
But your career is
your name.
on the line. Your
Yeah.
name. Although look at I remember years ago in Dayton, Ohio, seeing Pete Rose after he had been.
I was
banned
just
from
thinking
baseball.
about him.
And Pete Rose went from being a Hall of Fame All-Star player to he was signing Big Red Machine T-shirts at a mall.
Well, he was besmirched. His name was
but
ruined
but he's been pardoned
posthumously.
posthumously.
Yeah.
But a fascinating case. Like I said at the beginning, I think if Netflix saw this script, they would have said, unbelievable. Mob, NBA, Hall of Famers.
Who do we get to play Billups?
Yeah,
Who's
yeah,
going to
so-
play Rozier?
Yeah, well, we just get Denzel and Samuel L. Jackson. They can do a great job. But really, this case is going to be fascinating as it
Yeah.
unfolds. But for all the swagger, all of this, all of that, I think it's going to come down to very technical legal defenses, motions to dismiss, et cetera. And if I'm Rozier, Billups, whatever, I'm going to say, yeah, LeBron James had the flu, and I told people. If I'm Rozier, didn't feel like playing. So,
So what's wrong
you
with
gonna
that?
do about it?
Sue
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
fascinating. But remember, two totally separate cases. But the other thing that's going to be remarkable, and sometimes I've seen people do things, and it's like they somehow think they have a cloak of invisibility. I mean, you're Chauncey Billups, and they're using you to lure high-stakes poker players in to get rolled. Do you not think you may be attracting just a little bit of attention as a Hall of Famer that's on ESPN as we're sitting here speaking?
What happens
gambling?
to people that leads them to allegedly make these terrible decisions, knowing what is at stake here?
Well, I think you got a little bit of a sociopathic here and a narcissism here, and you sprinkle a little of that. And
Believe in your own bio, and yeah.
you know, that's why God created the show American Greed.
Yeah, that's
And
true. That's true.
A lot of dead presidents involved in this.
Well, yeah, good way to put it. We've got about 9 minutes left, a little over 8 actually, and I want to kind of do a little segue here and talk about Tennessee gambling. What is illegal? What is not? Believe it or not, we get questions about that.
Well, you know, Tennessee has very restrictive gambling statutes. And gambling has a very broad definition under Tennessee law. And it is risking anything of value for a profit whose return is including a lawful business transaction. So think about that. So if you're doing something for a profit and there's a risk, Tennessee broadly under TCA 3917-501 calls that gambling.
Years ago, we had a race, the duck race,
The duck race.
that had to stop. It was all these tiny plastic ducks, and it benefited a nonprofit, and they had to stop doing it because that was considered gambling. You would buy a duck and put it in the race, and then let's explain that to folks.
Basically, it was a game of chance, and the Boys and Girls Club, I believe, was the one that had
Yep.
the duck race. And finally, they got in trouble. I'm not sure if they actually passed an exception to the law to allow them to do it.
They stopped doing it.
But they stopped doing it. But here's some other things that are interesting. All sports betting in Tennessee must be done through an online mobile platform. You have to be at least 21 years of age to wager. You cannot bet on the performance of individual college athletes, so that's kind of important. Wagering is prohibited on high school sports, political elections, and events, Lori, like the Oscars. You know,
Hope you look perplexed. The Oscars,
Yes.
yes.
yeah, and you know, like
You know, they have Oscar parties where this may be
people
going
are
on.
betting on the Oscars,
Yeah.
and the Oscar goes to and
The
then,
over-under is?
You know, and Tennessee has had its share of gambling. Gambling is as old as sports is. In 1961, two UT basketball players were caught in a point shaving scheme with a individual out of New York. But like we talk about cases working out, their lawyers cut a deal. They flipped on the guy from New York that was profiting, and they got immunity.
Yeah.
So the Tennessee basketball players made the wise decision.
On the other hand, you have the lottery, and a lot of people were really surprised way back when, several years ago, when the lottery finally came to Tennessee. There had been
Which took a
pushback for a
constitutional
long time.
amendment, yes.
Yeah. But that's different, obviously.
Right. So, you know, basically there is a ongoing NCAA investigation with 13 players from 6 universities regarding gambling. But you know what's really interesting is that Tennessee, aside from the Titans being involved somehow.
And let's explain
in a
that.
tertiary-
What do you know about that?
I don't know, because we don't know, because we only see what is in indictments. We're not privy to the discovery. Typically, it's not a public record until someone files a motion and recites the facts or attaches a document.
And now that you mentioned that, the NBA says it is cooperating with the government. Does that mean the government
Is
has to
cooperating with
show
the
its
NBA.
hand and say, here's where we are, keep it abreast of the investigation?
Well, let's be very clear. When the NBA says they are cooperating with the government, that is a one-way street. So the government is not going to cooperate with the NBA. They ask questions through subpoenas, search warrants, etc. So very wise with the NBA. But like I said, if I was the NBA, I would be a little uneasy, because it's hard for me to believe that a conspiracy of this magnitude is set forth in these two indictments, federal indictments with this overlap. And these aren't just tertiary players. I mean, Chauncey Billups, a Hall of Famer.
These
that
are stars.
Is the coach, he's on leave,
Yeah.
of the Portland Trail Blazers. Rozier, point guard for the Miami Heat. Damon Jones, good player back in the day. Remarkable that the NBA is going to say, didn't know anything about it, when they know everything. When I represent a college athlete, they're trying to go to the NFL, NBA, or whatever. The vetting and the record checks, they pull academic records from the Office of Student Conduct at the university. They interview friends and neighbors, and you can't figure out that your Hall of Famers and your coaches are down there with La Cosa Nostra rolling people in high-stakes poker games.
It boggles the mind. It really does, on one hand, to have that mental image with people who are just so high up in the rankings of this incredible sport involving elite athletes. It's something else. So to wrap things up, next steps.
Next steps is the discovery process is taking place in both these indictments in federal court. Then after the discovery is exchanged, what you'll see is a flurry of motions, et cetera. But it sounds like with these cases involving over 30 other co-defendants, it's going to be deemed complex, and it's going to creep along. So the federal guidelines, deadlines in the scheduling order, will kind of track the complexity of a case. So I think it's going to be a while before you see something definitive, but because now the big pop was what was contained in both of these indictments. But since this is in federal court, you're not going to see a lot of public flow of information.
And again, since it's federal court, as we mentioned, no cameras in the courtroom. So it'll be not unlike what we saw in the Diddy trial. We'll just see sketches and that kind of thing. And maybe the quote-unquote perp walk afterwards where you try to get comments, and normally you get a no comment or silence. So that's where we stand right now. And I have to include this before we let you go. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, here's really the best info we can give you right now, because this is in Tennessee. This is out of Memphis. You can just go to thegamblingclinic.com. Just because it's in Memphis doesn't mean it can't help you here or anywhere. But there's that. And then here's the Tennessee Red Line, and that number is 800-889-9789. Just want to leave you with that, just in case this subject matter caught your eye because you saw the word gambling and maybe you have a problem with it. So we'd like for you to get help. That'll do it for now. You want to talk more at 5:30?
Let's do.
All right. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks,
and thank
Lori.
you for being with us.